7.22 million of you, thank you for that record, easily breaking our earliest record of 5 million just once for the mother of all talk shows, indeed beating it by more than 40%. And that, of course, doesn't include tonight's show, with two of the best and the biggest guests we could possibly wish for. So let's get on with the show. Will Donald Trump take America into war in the Middle East again? A forever war against which he railed from the moment of his emergence as a putative Republican presidential candidate exactly 10 years ago. He came down that golden escalator, having defeated the other dwarves in the Republican primary, primarily on the basis that they had all supported the disastrous war on Iraq. How he lampooned and lacerated them for bleeding America's young men and its treasure into the desert sands for nothing. Indeed, as recently as last November, Donald Trump was telling voters in the very narrowly contested and swing state of Michigan that he was the peace president. He was going to bring America's wars to an end. He was going to put America first. He was going to make America great again. But something has happened to Donald Trump. In the space of just days, he publicly, politically executed 3 of his best supporters, some of whom had put hundreds of millions of dollars into his election campaign, others of whom had driven hundreds of millions of people in his direction through his vast audiences on his television shows, and one of whom was so glittering a princess to Donald, he made her the Director of National Intelligence. Elon Musk was slandered, as it turned out, as ketamine-fueled, as drug-addled, drug-addicted. Although Elon Musk has now produced his health records from SpaceX, which show that he has passed with flying colours every single drug test, including random drug tests, that he has ever entered into. And poor Cookie Tucker Carlson, having done so much for Donald Trump's re-election, was doomed as some kind of crank without even a television station to his name. As for Tulsi Gabbard, her public march protestation on behalf of 17 American intelligence agencies, including the CIA, that there was no evidence that Iran was seeking to build a nuclear bomb. When this was put to Trump 48 hours ago, he said, "I don't care what she thinks." He doesn't care what his Director of National Intelligence thinks. It is exactly a replica, right down to the same tropes. I'm just waiting for little Marco Rubio to turn out at the Security Council holding a glass vial, holding a test tube, and telling us Iran's weapons of mass destruction are in this glass. I was thinking just the other day of the night that George Robertson, Lord Robertson, former head of NATO, former war minister in Tony Blair's war cabinet, answering me in a debate, he held up a glass of water half full and said that this amount of the weapons that Iraq has in its possession, hidden under presidential palaces, that's actually what he said, this amount of Iraq's weapons could destroy the entire city of Paris. The truth is, of course, if Iran did have weapons of mass destruction, they wouldn't be attacking it, for the same reason that nobody will ever attack Pyongyang. Iran is being attacked precisely because it does not have weapons of mass destruction. Otherwise, Lindsey Graham, Miss Lindsay, loves a man in uniform, especially with their boots on the ground, if you get my drift. He's determined to have an American invasion of Iran, although, like Ted Cruz, he evidently has no idea what size Iran is and just how numerous is their manhood. Lindsey Graham seems to be running Donald Trump now, him and Benjamin Netanyahu. There are some grounds for hope in the fact that the National Security Council met last evening with great fanfare going in, but with complete silence coming out. Trump was supposed to give a televised address after the council, but cancelled it. And today is striking a slightly different note than he was on the plane talking to Netanyahu, no doubt, via text, via Pegasus. He was writing like Tony Soprano probably wrote his texts, if he ever wrote them. He was actually threatening in gangster language to kill a very old man in his 80s, the Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Yes, that's right. The President of the United States said, "We know where you live. We're not going to take you out, brackets, kill, exclamation mark, close brackets, at least not yet." It's almost impossible to believe that a President of the United States of America wrote those words, but write them he did. And he's been insulting and belligerently provoking, poking in the eye everybody in the last 72 hours. But the most significant of those people was the person he insulted this afternoon. When President Vladimir Putin, in a last-ditch effort to avoid what may very well be a cataclysmic, all-out regional war, he patted him on the head and said, "Vladimir, I'll mediate Russia first. I'll mediate Russia first. You can worry about Iran later." Putting Putin back in his box, he no doubt hoped and maybe thought. But the opposite is true. The supplies arriving at Tehran's military airport from both Russia and China have dramatically speeded up, and the number of flights coming in can no longer easily be charted. Significant and sophisticated weapons of war and materiel are now arriving from Iran's best friends and chief allies in the BRICS organization, Russia and China. China in particular has everything to lose from any regime change war, whatever way it goes. If the Iranian oil supply to Iran were to fail, there would be critical difficulties in the Chinese economy. If the Straits of Hormuz were to be blocked, there would be critical difficulties in every economy in the world, particularly in Europe. All the more remarkable then that the European pygmies who pose as the leaders of our countries are not just egging Donald Trump on to get involved in Netanyahu's war to save his own skin, but in the case of the British, of course, the tail of the American dog, we are getting ready to join in. A Cobra meeting, a British intelligence roundtable, committee room 14, cabinet office briefing room 14, but Cobra sounds all the more deadly, don't you think, is taking place right now. And so, having spent the last 20 months doing everything possible to assist the Israeli government in Gaza, in the slaughter of the innocents, Keir Starmer is about to join another war. He's already in one in Ukraine. He's been in one for 20 months over Gaza, and now he's getting ready to take Britain into yet another Middle East war. Perhaps it's Tony's revenge, so far as he's concerned. So let's spend a few minutes looking at what is happening right now and what might happen in the next 24, 48 hours. And if we're all still alive, I'll be back here on Sunday to review the efficacy of what I'm about to say. But I feel quite confident about it. In the sky right now, heading for Tel Aviv, or maybe Jerusalem, or maybe Haifa, or maybe an airbase, or maybe Dimona, the nuclear industry powerhouse of the Israeli state, where underneath which are Israel's nuclear weapons, is the very first use of a hypersonic Iranian missile. That's right, hypersonic, like the Orishnik. In fact, its trajectory looks dazzlingly like the Orishnik, the Russian super weapon that obliterates everything that it hits and cannot possibly, literally, scientifically, cannot possibly be stopped. It's called the Khorram Shah missile, and it's in the air. There it is on your screen now. And it will land, I predict, to devastating effect. The only question is, what exactly is it headed for? If it's headed for Israel's nuclear weapons, then we've got an all-round international global crisis, because the emissions from the shattering of Israel's perhaps 300 nuclear weapon fleet would be very considerable indeed. Talk about nuclear proliferation. But I have no idea where it's headed. I just know that it's in the air. The second point that needs to be made is that 30 ballistic missiles hit Israel last night. The fact that that is news to many, maybe most of you, is because it is now a serious crime for anyone, whether a tourist, a foreign journalist, broadcaster, or Israeli citizen, to publish any pictures or footage of these Iranian missiles arriving. Piers Morgan thinks there's only 2 have managed to get through. Well, if that were true, they'd be showing it every minute on the television. The fact that it's a crime to show the skyline of Israel demonstrates, I think, beyond contradiction, my contention that hundreds of Iranian ballistic missiles are raining down on Tel Aviv, to the point that the mayor of Tel Aviv, a former intelligence chief in the Israeli military, said, we cannot go on with this war. We must get out of this war. And the Israeli finance minister said, we can't afford to continue this war. Our economy is falling off a cliff. So if Donald Trump doesn't join in, Israel will have had a bloody good hiding and will have to come to terms with the new regional balance of power and force in the region. So we're back to the question of whether Trump will join in. Let's assume for a minute that tonight, tomorrow, the next day, or over the weekend, the United States Armed Forces, which are now in the Persian Gulf in profusion, both naval and air assets, most of the air assets in the nearby potentates, the satrapies of Qatar and Saudi Arabia, but there are other culprits. They're all now parked with fleets of American warplanes, bombers. And the B-2 bomber is in the air over Israel this afternoon. A so-called stealth bomber, but I definitely managed to see it. In fact, I took a screenshot of it. I'm sure the Iranians already have it. The B-2 and the F-35s, dozens of them, are now parked at the Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And there's not much doubt what they will be used for if Trump gives the green light. They'll be used to drop Moabs, the mother of all bombs, massive ordnance bombs. The one that we've seen in action before destroyed a mountain in Afghanistan and was used for no other reason, certainly didn't stop the Taliban, than to chill the blood of everyone else. The largest non-nuclear bomb ever detonated. And it definitely destroyed the mountain. The question is, did it destroy what was underneath the mountain? And if it destroys the mountains, plural, under which Iran's nuclear assets, civil, peaceful nuclear assets, according to the IAEA and according to Tulsi Gabbard, these assets are deeply underneath mountains. So will one Moab be enough? Or will many Moabs have to be dropped? And if they are, will they in the end succeed? And what will Iran be doing while the Moabs are dropping on it? Well, here I think Trump, perhaps not his fault, his only knowledge of the Arab world is collecting gold and diamonds there. He doesn't know anything about Persia. He knows nothing about Iran. He knows nothing about the ancient civilization, many, many thousands of years older than the country of which he is the president. And he definitely doesn't know their attitude to death. You see, when he threatened the octogenarian leader of Iran that he was not going to kill him, brackets, not yet at least, he imagined that that would make the Ayatollah frightened. Well, anybody who knows anything at all about Shia Islam in particular knows that martyrdom is what they live for. The entire schism in the religion is based upon the reverence for the glorification of the martyrdom of Hussein. This idea that you're going to frighten an Iranian with threatening him with death shows that Trump is an ignorant New Jersey casino-owning mobster. If he imagines that the Iranian regime is going to go quietly into that good night while he's Moabbing them, he is an idiot. Here's what they'll do. They will immediately destroy every American base in West Asia. And if that happens to bring down the monarchies that gave the gold and diamonds to Donald Trump, well, that'll be a bonus so far as the Iranians are concerned. There will be no more oil pumped from Kuwait, from Saudi Arabia, from the United Arab Emirates, or from Qatar. Not for many years, until those oil fields stop being on fire and can possibly be repaired. If you've got a tall building in Dubai, you better check your insurance covers war damage. And they'll close the Straits of Hormuz, through which 40% of the entire world's oil supply sails through on a daily basis. That won't trouble America, by the way, because they've got plenty of oil. But it's sure going to bring the European economies to their knees, as if they weren't already on their knees. But it's going to make their leaders squeal, and not with delight. Coming up is only the world's best journalist, Glenn Greenwald. See you in a minute. Stay tuned.